Welcome to the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside rainy and overcast Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, where I hope the weather is much better than it is here. John Webster, how are you, my longtime friend?
Yeah, man, I'm doing real good, man. I hope everybody else is doing well. We've been having rain here since last week, and probably gonna be raining here until Wednesday. Um,
I count on it.
yeah, so it's rough, and you know it's too cold for me. It's in the 70s, Gary. That's way too cold for me. So I needed to warm up again. I need it back in the 95 or 100. Then we back in business again, man. But I tell you who is in business, man. Let me tell you, man. The New York Knicks are in business.
Oh,
They're going to the NBA Finals. We're gonna talk about them a little bit today. We're gonna talk about is either San Antonio or OKC going to be in business to play the Knicks. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to do a little bit of baseball. We're going to talk a little bit about the Orioles. And then we're going to give you a chance to say a few things about the Nationals as well. They're playing some good baseball right now as well, Gary. Then we're going to wrap it up with the Indy 500 and the unfortunate passing of Kyle Busch. And we go from there. But first, what's going on in the NBA? The Knicks are back in the finals. Haven't been there since 1999. Hey man, everything is right in the Big Apple this morning.
oh man. You know, at one time, full disclosure, when Ewing was with the Knicks, I was a Knicks fan. I'm not gonna lie. Um, and they got to the finals twice, I think, when he was there. Of course, both times they ran up against better teams, and yeah, you wondered whether they would get back. Last year, I was disappointed that they didn't get out of that second round, uh, and I don't know. And I was even more dismayed with them when they let Thibodeau go right after that. And I just thought, this is a team that just is going to struggle to get back there. But they got Mike Brown as coach, who is an excellent coach. And he's got a chance to prove it now. And he's got that team playing probably even better than I thought they would if they had if they were completely healthy last year with Thibodeau. The way that they have just dominated, I think it was is it 12 straight wins now? Maybe 11.
11.
11.
11.
Yeah. And by double digits. I mean, who does that? Uh, I don't know what that means against whoever comes out of the West. Of course, that John has become a slugfest, knockdown, slobber knocker, as you like to describe it. But right now, if momentum means anything, the New York Knicks are like probably the most dangerous team out there. And of course, we like to jump on what's hot in this business, and you just can't deny that the everything that the Knicks are doing is right. It's dominant. And for what it's worth, John, I think this series was over a week ago when they stole game one. And in the process, they stole the Cavaliers' heart, and the Cavaliers never found it over those next three games. I didn't even watch game four, didn't even watch the clincher because I knew how it was going to end. And it was just a matter of, by how much. So congratulations to the Knicks. I just hope they don't get rusty. Waiting for whoever comes out of the West between the Spurs and the Thunder. And John, the Spurs and the Thunder, in a short period of time, that has become a grudge match. That has become, I'll say, what is it? A blood feud. They don't like each other. And it's reflected in the fouls that are called and the fouls that aren't called. And right now, again, it's best 2 out of 3. I know you picked the Spurs. I'm sticking with the Thunder. I think I'd pick the Thunder. No, wait a minute. Yeah, I think I'd pick the Thunder in 7. I'm going to stick with that because, because I have to. But John, right now, I'd say it's a toss-up. Game 5 in Oklahoma City tonight. That may well decide the series, but it's a matter of how they're going to do it because they can rely on Shea Gilgis Alexander, the Thunder can, but they need more scoring. They need Jalen Williams. They need everybody. Most importantly, they need to figure out a way to get that ball over Wemby, because no matter how many shots he takes, no matter how many points he scores, he is a factor. I think last night, the last I heard, he had scored 30 points, and I was just like, again, I think I just kind of looked at it in passing just to see what the score was, and then to see the celebration. Excuse me, I'm sorry, that's the Knicks series. I'm getting confused now, but Sunday. I mean, I really thought a fight was going to break out in that game at some point, and I'm not sure if the Spurs haven't taken OKC's thunder. They sure have taken that air of invincibility that I think a lot of us had about them, and they have just played them kind of straight up. And they haven't always been at full strength, and that's the scary thing about the Spurs.
Well, interesting series. I still say it's going to go seven. I think San Antonio gets them in seven. I think one of the factors for this series is going to be the fact that Jalen Williams, not the big guy down low, but the guard Jalen Williams. He's out with
Mm-hmm.
a hamstring, re-aggravated his hamstring. I think that's going to play a major role. Also, Wembyama, whenever he sees Chet Holmgren, it's like he sees a plate of food. I mean, he gets excited and he digs right into him, man. And was it the last game? 33 points, 3 of 7 on the 3-point shot.
Mm-hmm.
What else did he do? 8 rebounds. He played really well. You look on the other side with OKC. They had a little bit of balance scoring. They got three of the starting five had double figures in points. Gilgis Alexander had 19 leading score. If he has 19 points and he's the leading scorer, they're not going to win many games. He's got to score more than 19 points.
Yeah,
Then they got
yeah,
11 out of Joe on the bench. They got 10 out of Williams on the bench. But the biggest thing is you got to get more. You need a more on their starting five. You need some people, as I like to say, get in the car and go for a ride with Shea Gilgis Alexander.
yeah.
Um,
They need to send it.
Holmgren,
They need an aircraft carrier in the middle
Holmgren,
because yeah, somebody's got to body up on Wemby. I guess Hartenstein, has done an admirable job, but again,
yeah.
he's going to pile up fouls rather quickly against Wemby because Wemby is just so agile.
Yeah, and Holmgren had 10 points, 9 rebounds. That's decent, but that's still pedestrian. Needs a little
Mm.
bit more out of him. As you said,
Ooh,
Hartenstein's playing
pedestrian.
really well.
Look at you using
Um,
10-cent words, man.
huh?
Look at you using 10-cent words. Pedestrian.
But
I mean,
you
you're,
just
you're
need
not wrong, but I thought we were in the game of keep it simple.
I'm sorry, Gary. I won't let that slip out anymore. But
No, no, that's okay. I remember I'm a writer, so I love words. But as a coach, I thought you like to keep it simple. Say yeah, go in there and knock them in the mouth. That kind of thing.
well, every now and then I can come up with something besides slobber knocker. Every now and then. So, it was one of those games, man. I think OKC bounces back in game five. I think they win game five, but it's going to go seven, and I think San Antonio gets them in seven. Now, on that other side of the table, the Knicks, congratulations to the Knicks. What a way to go. What a way to play. Jalen Brunson, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Don't tell his father, but I think he's the best Brunson in the house playing basketball. But
Yeah.
he had a great series. I think one of the things that makes the Knicks very formidable and tough is that they're deep. Shamit can come off the bench. Mitchell Robinson can come off the bench. They can go 8 or 9 deep and not miss a beat. Um, Hart, Josh Hart, is it Josh Hart? Or Hart, and the last name is Hart. He
Yeah,
plays a great role.
close enough, man.
He plays a gritty role. This last game they won by 20, 27, 28 points, something like that,
Yeah, 20.
and they're just a dominant team in the East. Some are saying, and it's true, the East is down some, but even if the East wasn't down, I think New York would still be dominating, man. I think they're one of the better teams there. I think the next round, if they play San Antonio, they beat San Antonio. If they play OKC, I don't think they match up as well with OKC. So we'll see how that goes. But all the credit to the Knicks. I heard James Harden and the coach Kenny Atkinson make comments that I just wish they hadn't made after the game. Harden said they dominated us 4-0, but we're still the better team. No,
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 no, you're
no,
not.
no, no.
Um,
You take your butt kicking, even if you're the better team. You say the better team won, and you just say you move on to another day. Kenny Atkinson made a comment before game four, saying analytically we've won 2 out of 3. All that matters, all that matters is Gary. You made a comment a few minutes ago about me keeping it simple and me being a coach is being basic. Okay, I'm going to keep it as simple as possible with this next statement. All that matters is who has more points on the scoreboard at the end of the game. That's all that
mhm,
matters. Not
mhm.
analytics is important. I'm not knocking analytics. I think it has a place in sports, not only in basketball, baseball, football. It's used all around. It has a place, but at the end of the day, who has more points at the end of the game?
Yeah,
That's all that matters.
yeah,
So hey, I'm enjoying the Knicks. Carl Anthony Towns, I think they found that he's rejuvenated, and as he said, he wears number 32 for a reason. Gary, he wears 32 because his favorite player of all time was Magic Johnson. And what has Mike Brown done with him? He has made him a point center now, and he is doing a very good job at it.
yeah.
Uh, what can you say about him? And OG,
No, no.
OG. I'm just gonna say OG.
Yeah, just
Oh,
leave it at that.
yeah, OG's playing really well. I think the Knicks are a really talented team. I think whoever they play the next round, it's not going to be easy for San Antonio. It's not going to be easy for OKC. The Knicks are for real. They are a very good team. I had the same concerns you had, Gary, when they let Thibodeau go. What are they going to do next? But Mike Brown has stepped in and did a marvelous job. Marvelous job. Unbelievable. And hey, man, congratulations to the Knicks. And let's get ready to watch our best 2 out of 3 with OKC and the Spurs.
If I could add a little postscript to this with the Cavaliers. Okay, since you mentioned Mike Brown, I'm going to say it like this. Mike Brown has worked toward this for a long time. I mean, he had, I think, but he had a team ready in Cleveland. He's done well as an assistant. He's done well as a head coach, even in some difficult situations. And for him to go into what I call a crucible of New York City with media, with fans, with a demanding, sometimes difficult owner, and get them to this level, I think is really impressive. I think he's an X factor. Um, and again, it would not shock me if the Knicks shock the world. And I'm all here for it for a number of reasons because John, we talk all the time about how every sport needs its traditional teams to win a championship, to keep that fan base and to be kind of like the hero to some and the villain to others. I don't think the Knicks are a villain unless you're in Boston, Philadelphia, or maybe Washington or something. But It's good to see the Knicks back there, and the league is happy about that from a television standpoint because that's gonna drive ratings, through the roof. But it's good to see the Knicks back there because again, for a coach who's been at this for a long time, and he's built for this. I hope that he comes away with something, and and good for him. He's showing what we've said about him for a lot of years. As for Cleveland, Cleveland's got some soul searching to do. I don't want to hear anything about analytics. I don't want to hear anything about we were the better team or whatever, because you weren't. If you were a better team, you would have held on to a 22-point lead in the last 7.5 minutes of game one. If you were the better team, you wouldn't have gotten the break speed off of you, for the next 3 games after that, including twice at home. And if you were the better team, you would have figured out how to call timeout when a team is going on runs. You see it building, and you let it get past 10 points. You let it get past 18 points before you call a timeout. The game is out of your control at that point, Coach. Yes, and I'm talking to you. And so I don't want to hear anything about analytics. Like you said, analytics is a part of sports, but John, a lot of it is instinct and what goes on up here. And he didn't show that at all. He just didn't. And that's why they're licking their wounds after being swept 4-0, including a 27-point closeout loss at home. That just won't do. And John, let's just say, what if that was the Knicks? Do you think that coach would be there while we're having this less than 24 hours later? That's a decision I think Cleveland also has to make. Do you stick with this guy to get you there to that next level? We said that they were a year away last year. We thought they might be a year away this year. The Knicks kind of proved that the Cavs are not just a year away, but they're probably 2 or 3 players away because they just had nothing for them. You better look at free agency. We talk about Giannis, we talk about LeBron, possibly being out there. You have to look at one of those 2 guys and get them to understand either their leadership role or their complementary roles, because that's what Cleveland needs. I still think it's Donovan's team, but they need that secondary scorer, and James Harden ain't it.
Good points, Gary. Really good points, man. Strong points, man. Now let's move on over to baseball. Let's start this conversation off. I want you to talk a little bit about these Washington Nationals, man. They've been playing some good ball. They started playing good ball, but beating up on a team up the Parkway who wears black and orange. But you go ahead and tell us about the Nationals, man.
The thing about the Nationals, and I really, I'm like aching for that opportunity to come home and watch them. And yes, John, I would like to take you to a game so you can have a better taste in your mouth about the experience of going to Nationals Park like we used to have back in the day. With winning, what was it, 10-2 yesterday, and they've gone over 500 for the first time this season. Well, maybe not for the first time, but to be in almost into June and to be a game over 500 after 55 games is probably more than we would have expected. And I think the thing, what's clear, they can hit the ball. They hit the ball hard. They score a lot of runs, like a lot of teams. They have been, their bullpen has been suspect. But when you can put 10 runs on the board, when you can put consistently 5 to 8 runs on the board like they can, and they're in second place in a tough division. Now, I know it's not going to make any kind of difference against the Atlanta Braves, but when you can score that many runs, it really makes opposing pitchers think about what you're throwing to them. CJ Abrams, I think. I guess my biggest question is guys like Abrams and Bell. Do they keep them and see what can happen over the rest of the season, whether they can, get into wild card contention, which again none of us saw coming, or do they trade them maybe for that player that and I said Wood. I meant to say James Wood. I said Bell, but I meant to say James Wood. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, do you keep those guys and and ride what they can do with their bat, or do again you get an established player and become a real contender? I'm a believer in chemistry that you dance with who brung you, and I'd like to see how that goes, because in a lot of ways, John, this reminds me of 2019. Maybe not so much in terms of the World Series prospects, because I'm not crazy, but in terms of a team that everybody said, with the trades that they made, all the players that they unloaded after that title team, I mean, all these superstars that are playing for LA and Philly and New York and, everywhere else, all the players that they got in return are paying dividends for them. They've made a couple other good trades and, signed a couple of key free agents. And yeah, they were all young. Do they fall victim though to that same thing where they become good and then you have to pay these guys? But I just want them to I just want to see if they can get maybe 5-10 games over 500 and become a serious contender with this. Don't break up the chemistry, and that's it, because again, that's the team you came out of spring training with. That's the team you really need to stick with now that they've gotten over 500, because that's important, John, in baseball. It's one thing when you can get within a few games of 500. If you can get over that hump, that's one thing to show, that's a confidence builder. Then you try to build on that. And I think that's what the Orioles, and I'm gonna throw it to you on that one. I think with a couple of the back-to-back walk-offs that they've had, they're starting to get that confidence, and I'm curious to see what they build on that. So, what say you, my friend?
Well, before I go to the Orioles, I just want to say Nationals are playing really well, and they're right there, Gary, in the wild card. They're 2 games out, so they're right there to make a move on the wild card as well. Still early, but they're playing great ball. On to the Orioles. They had a walk-off win on Sunday. Turned right back around yesterday. Had another walk-off win. Both games were walk-offs with home runs by Colton Cowser. And as the saying goes, we say, ain't the milk good? No, ain't the milk cold? Ain't the milk cold? Ain't the milk cold? Because Cowser, moo, moo. That's all I'm going to do to be a cow, Gary. That's about it today.
We're going to talk about milk in a minute too.
But the Orioles, you mentioned to me earlier today. I don't want to get too excited yet. Still got another game to play today. Great, they won yesterday, but now you got to turn around today. Shane Baz is pitching. You got to get another W underneath your belt. Baz is pitching, and then Bass is pitching. The goal now is to win these series, win 2 out of 3. Got to get yourself back to 500. Right now, you're 24-30. You beat Detroit 2 out of 3. You started this series off with Tampa Bay or Tampa with a win. So you need to keep building W's. Pete Alonso, I think, is starting to find his bat. He's been hitting very well. Had 3 hits yesterday. The Orioles have a conundrum in the outfield. The best outfielder, the best defensive outfielder, is Colton Cowser, without a doubt. He plays the corner outfields the best. He can play center, but he's not a center fielder. The trouble that you have playing him all the time is because his bat is very light. But if he can get himself above 200, maybe 230, something like 220, 230, then you got to play him regularly. I would. Tavares in center, I think, is your best center fielder. Then you go over to left field, you got Taylor Ward over there in left field. I saw something yesterday, and I hate to be an old grumpy man, but I saw something yesterday. They've been talking about playing Jackson Holiday at third base. For the 12th and the 13th inning yesterday, they put Jackson Holiday at third base. They had a bunt come down, and he hesitated for a split second. The run ended up being safe. And my thing is, that's not where he plays. He does not play third base. Put him where he is at second base. They play Jeremiah Jackson at second sometimes. Put Jackson Holiday at second. My thing is, if you're not comfortable with Kobe Mayo at third right now, put Blaze Alexander at third. Your utility infielder will be Jeremiah Jackson. That's just me. That's just me. You got Samuel Basayo doing a great job. You got Adley Rushman doing a great job. Now the pitching, well, Raiders pitched great yesterday, lights out. I think Bassett is starting to improve a little bit. I think this is an important start for him. I don't know what has happened to Trevor Rogers. I really don't know. It's confusing. I don't know. Last year he had an ERA of 1.89. This year I think he's up around 6. And it's scary for this to happen, Gary. He'll get 2 strikes and I get nervous. He'll get 2 outs and I'll get nervous. He can't get the third strike and he can't get the third out. I hope it works out for him because he's a great guy. He's really worked hard and he's just struggling. The bullpen yesterday was good. Anthony Nunez gave up a time run after they went ahead 2-1. They made it 2-2 on him. The bullpen is, they're still struggling because you still have pitchers who are out. Cade Povich is out. Dean Kramer is out. Zach Eflin is out for the season. Trevor Rogers is having a down year. So that's rough, and you're taxing your bullpen. You're putting a lot on them because you're not having pitchers who can go deep in the game. And that's really hard. That's really rough. So with that being said, I think you and I are both hopeful that our teams will continue to find a way to move forward, and we'll just see how it goes, man. Now on to the Indy 500. I know you want to say a few things about the Indy 500 as well as about the unfortunate passing of Kyle Busch, and my condolences to the Kyle Busch family.
Yeah. Thank you, John. When you talked about ain't the milk cold, Felix Rosenquist is probably saying the same thing after really pulling off a stunning, thrilling last lap pass. It's not just the last lap. It was just with yards to spare. He slingshots around David Malukas and wins the Indy 500 by 0.0253 seconds. Closest finish in Indy history. John, it was, I covered that race for double-digit years, and it's fun to see a race like that evolve from when hardly anybody was there because of the split between the two series, and watching it slowly kind of come back together after the merger or unification as they call it, and see a lot of these young drivers really come up and win. And Rosenquist was in the mix all day. I mean, there was something like almost 70 lead changes in that race. And I mean, I'm talking about legitimate lead changes, not just because of pit strategy, as in NASCAR. I'm talking about my car's faster than yours. My car, I could get a tow from behind you and then slingshot past you. That's what you saw in the end. Good for him, capping a great month where he became a dad just under 3 weeks ago. And now he's got a win that will stick with him forever. I feel like guys like Malukas will have their chance because they're too good not to. Pato O'Ward, he was in the mix as well. I mean, he's done everything except win there. Alex Palou, the defending champion, the defending series champion, two-time defending series champion, was right in there. So, John, there are at least 8, 9 drivers that are capable of winning this race every year, and I think the excitement is really back with that race. And I think the thing for me, when growing up, and that when the race was on a delayed basis on TV, but you would do your things, you'd have your cookout, and then watch the race. And then, of course, I grew up to be a sports writer, and then I'm there as it unfolds, and it's really a thrilling thing. 350,000 people in one place, and they're all like on their feet and watching again one of the most thrilling races. And last lap passes for the win have become commonplace in recent years. I think there's been at least 4 of them in the last 4 or 5 years. And that's the kind of thing that I think will draw eyeballs back. And, congratulations to them. I wanted to add about NASCAR. Daniel Suarez won the rain-shortened Coca-Cola 600, which, of course, that's a significant win for him. Not so much because it's the 600, because I always think of the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard and Bristol as establishment races, to win. But when you win a long race like that, even though it was shortened, it's still a significant thing. And even more because what he said afterward in terms of talking about advice that Kyle Busch gave him. And I think that says a lot about Kyle Busch's legacy. He unfortunately passed away from complications from a severe illness, and he was only 41. Two-time champion, winner of like 100 races, I think, on the second tier series, 234 overall across the trucks, the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, and now the Cup series, like 60 something wins there. For my money, John, as much NASCAR as I've covered over the past 30 some years, that for my money, yes, Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator, Richard Petty, the King, Jimmy Johnson, who is just solid, seven championships, but a guy, Kyle Busch might have been probably the best pure driver that I've ever seen. And he had as many enemies as friends in the garage, on the track, and definitely in the stands. It's like wrestling, John. Half the people are going to cheer for you, the other half are going to boo you as the heel. And I think he relished that. I think that's what drove him. At the same time, I think he was still humble enough. He knew he was good enough, but he was still humble enough that he could really offer advice to up and coming drivers, to drivers that were on the cusp of breaking through, and just keeping them encouraged, whether they be teammates or competitors. I mean, obviously they're all competitors, but I think that really speaks to his legacy. He did it his way, and I'll always remember 2 things. One, his brother Kurt, who had won the first chase in 2004, and he literally drove the wheel off his car at Homestead and came back to win the race. Came back to win the championship. He finished top 10, and came back to win a championship when it seemed like his day was done, when he literally drove the wheel off his car. He wins the championship, but he says later on, if you think I'm good, wait till you see my younger brother. At that time, Kyle was a teenager racing trucks. They had to set an age minimum because, he was so competitive as a 16-year-old racing trucks. So, he comes in, and I think about that with him. And I also think about a comment he made at Bristol, Tennessee, where he compared this 5th generation car that was built for safety. It was basically a big box that basically had sheet metal and skins on it. And he compared it to driving a milk crate. And then he goes out in that first race and drives a milk crate to victory at one of the toughest tracks you'll ever drive on, a short track. And, I was going to say, I'll be daggone. That guy can basically drive anything. When I think about good drivers that I've watched, of course, one of them was Tony Stewart, who was a commentator on the Indy 500 Sunday. And I think, he was a guy that could basically, drive anything on four wheels. But for my money, Kyle Busch was the best driver I've ever seen to drive anything on four wheels. Be it a truck, a car, late model. I mean, anything. A go kart, and for that matter, a shopping cart or a milk cart. Rest, rest in heaven, my friend.
Hey, man, I appreciate the words. Very well stated, my friend. Hey, Gary, take us home, man.
Well, let's see where to start. Okay, so French Open has started. We've got our usuals to root for. With Coco Golf, Naomi Osaka, Taylor Townsend. There's probably a couple of names. Let's see. I'm trying to think who. Well, and of course, this is the most interesting tournament because it's played on clay, which again, John, if you've ever watched tennis, hard courts are one thing. There's a certain strategy, but if you've ever watched it on clay, you can just sit back there on the baseline and play serve and volley until you figure out where to find your opening. And winning that tournament, I think, is probably the hardest of the Grand Slam events. Good luck to the names that I just mentioned. So there's that. We've got the WNBA. I'm trying to think of what else. In another week, we'll have the Belmont Stakes to talk about. But John, we've got baseball, and our two local teams are starting to play well. So let's see how that pans out. And of course, the NBA Finals, which we probably won't know who's playing in that, for like another week or so. But John, we've got a game every other night, it seems, and Game 5 with the Spurs and the Thunder figures to be probably the most interesting game in what really is, I think, for a lot of people, the pre-NBA Finals, because that's the series everybody's been paying attention to, outside of New York, that is.
Well, thank you all for watching again this week. Another great week in sports. Had a great time discussing with my good friend Gary Graves this week. Watch some tennis, watch some hockey, watch some UFL, United Football League, watch some soccer, watch some WNBA, watch the NBA, watch some Major League Baseball. Also, let me give special congratulations to the Princeton Tigers for winning the lacrosse championship over Notre Dame. Very well done. Kick the stew out of Notre Dame. But congratulations to the Princeton Tigers. But above all else, just watch some sports and come back and see us. Take care.